areas or rural areas or Native American reservations. You can't leave people behind, which is why we need equal pay, paid leave, and affordable child care. It's why we need immigration reform. We need to stop playing politics with immigrants. Our youth and diversity are our meal ticket to the future. That's why we need to put this issue behind us as a political issue and lift the human potential of all Americans. It's why we need to do whatever is necessary to close the gap between the unemployment rate for veterans and the unemployment rate for the rest of us. Most veterans should be more employable than the rest of the population, and the only reason they're not is that so many have suffered from post-traumatic stress syndrome from their multiple deployments. That's why when Hillary says we need a $10 billion community mental health program to deal with the epidemic of prescription drugs and heroin, but also to deal with the continued troubles that veterans have, you need to know that's an economic strategy. It's not just a decent, humane, honorable thing to do. It will unleash the potential of millions of your fellow citizens who can contribute to our future. Sentences that are too long for crimes that are not serious, we should give them a chance to begin again. But if you want to do it, you got to give them the education and training and the assurance that they will not be denied consideration for work because they've once been in jail. If we're going to start again, let's let everybody start again so we can all rise together. This is very, very important. If you do that, and we invest in a modern infrastructure, in a modern clean energy plan, in modern manufacturing jobs, if we get the banks to start making loans to small businesses again, which is 2/3 of our job growth and has been for 20 years, we can do this. We can all rise together. But it depends on whether you believe in building a future prosperity, the likes of which America has never seen, that we can all participate in.
How about all the money and sentencing you poured into Massacre?
Or you believe.
You regret that? What about your law?
What did you say?
Money into Massacre.
Whoa. Okay, let's talk about that. No, just a minute. Now, if I talk about it, will you let me talk instead of interrupting me? Okay. When the crime bill of 1994 came over from the House, it had stronger incarceration procedures than I originally asked for. They cover about 8% of total people in prison. More than 90% are in state and local prisons. Hillary's opponent in the primary voted for that bill. When we got to the Senate included an assault weapons ban with an ammunition clip limit, which had never before been included in the law. I had just been through a knockdown, drag-out fight to get universal background checks in. They didn't think they could get it passed in the House without including the incarceration provisions. Over 1 year ago, I went to the NAACP, before Hillary even declared for office, and I said, the federal crime bill overdid that incarceration business, and we need to let a lot of these young people out. Many years ago, I myself commuted the sentences of a lot of people who were put in prison for drug offenses that were excessive. And President Obama is basically completing the cycle of what we cited then. So yeah, we didn't do everything right. But I did get the American people. Now don't interrupt me. You said you wanted me to talk. So first of all, there's only one person that didn't vote for that, and that's Hillary, not Senator Sanders. She didn't vote for it. Number two, and most important, look at what you did get. You got community policing. You got after-school programs and night programs for young people who are in trouble. And you got the lowest crime rate in 25 years, the lowest murder rate in 33 years, and the lowest death from illegal gun homicides in 47 years. So I thought that the lives we were saving mattered. I've never claimed that it was perfect. I just claimed that when you make laws, You have to decide if you're going to make the perfect the enemy of the good. And there's a lot of people walking around alive today because we had the lowest gun death rate in 47 years, and I'm proud of that. I'm proud of that. And I think she was the first candidate in either party to say the same thing and to argue that we needed a systematic effort at the national level and at the state level and at the local level to let people out of jail who've been in there too long. Here in California, it costs you almost $65,000 to incarcerate somebody for a year. How many people could you educate here? How many children could go through this art center if we did that? So I think we're having a vigorous agreement. And I notice, I don't think it's right to look back and cherry pick my record and then try to blame Hillary with everything somebody disagrees with. If you're gonna do that, you at least ought to give her credit for the things she agreed with. She's the only person you can vote for who's...
You represent corporations.
Wait a minute. Wait, all right, wait a minute. No, this is good. And now, will you let me answer that? Will you let me answer that? When I became president, I raised taxes on the top 1%. I raised taxes on the wealthiest corporations. I put a man in to regulate Wall Street who did his job so well that the Republicans threatened to defund the Securities and Exchange Commission because he was doing his job.
But they would defund it any time.
And, wait. And I will say again, it is the only time in history when income gains in America for the bottom 20% went up in higher percentage terms than the top 20%, and when they were led by African American families, secondly by Latino families, and nobody else was mad because we were all rising together. You can't, it is highly inconvenient. I've watched this whole campaign where somebody says, oh, can I find one little thing that happened that I will disagree with, and then blame him for it, and then maybe I can make people forget that's the only time in 50 years when our incomes all rose together, when we had record numbers of jobs, record numbers of income, and record numbers of progress. And, oh, by the way, there was only one law that had anything to do with the financial crash, and that's one that exempted from federal regulations these complex securities and derivatives. It passed with about 80-something% of both houses. It wasn't my idea. They passed it. They put it in a bill which reenacted something I wanted real badly called the Community Reinvestment Act. It required banks to make loans in every community where they had ATM machines. When I was president, more than 90% of all the loans made to ordinary people, including 3 times the loans ever made to minority-owned businesses, more than twice the loans ever made to women-owned businesses by the Small Business Administration, and the whole history of the SBA were made when I was president. That's one of the reasons we all rose together. So did I want it? Yeah. There was $800 billion worth of loans we'd already made under the Community Reinvestment Act. Now, it didn't cause any problems when I was there, but later when President Bush and the Republican Congress got elected and they stopped regulating things and nobody was home as the bank regulators and the SEC, it was a problem. But again, if you want somebody, there's only one person who didn't vote for it in the Democratic primary, but she wasn't in Congress, that was Hillary. Her opponent did vote for it. Have I ever one time accused him of wrongly doing something intentionally? Of course not. I think he made a mistake, but I don't believe he was in the tank. And this whole campaign has been some kind of weird attempt to say, let's don't look at what really happened, which is we all grew together. Let's look at what really happened, which is we moved 100 times as many people out of poverty when I was president and when Reagan was president. Let's don't look at what really happened, that we tried to deal with this. Let's see if we can turn everything on its head, turn upside down, inside out, and backwards. I don't believe that. Now, if you want to know what the real problem with inequality is today, I was going to get to that. Wall Street cannot wreck Main Street today. One of the reasons all the progressive wards in downtown New York City, which is very liberal, voted for Hillary 2-1, is that they know there are already 60,000 fewer people on Wall Street today than there were the day before the crash. The problem now is not with the big banks. They can't wreck Main Street. The problem today is that corporations are spending too much of their income on their shareholders and the top management and too little on their employees. And for more than a year, Hillary has advocated giving companies that fairly share their revenues with their employees and profit sharing a 15% tax credit and not giving these activist shareholders the whole cut in capital gains tax in a year and a day. What's the matter is we're running all these big corporations for the biggest shareholders and the top management getting paid along with them instead of to advance the purpose for which the corporation was set up, to make whatever product they're making, whatever service they're making. Because, wait, you see what I mean? They always change the subject because they don't want to debate the merits. So, sir, I answered your question because there are a lot of people in finance who agree with her, who don't believe that the hedge fund should run the country, who don't believe that big activist shareholders should run the country, who believe that the companies that make the most money over the long run do it. Well, let me ask you this. All right, you ask me one of these off the wall. I'll ask you a question. Wait. You're not running this. Now, I'm giving you 3 answers. Now, afterward, I want you to let me finish my speech. Why, if you think these people are running the economy, then they must be smart, right? Then why did these big hedge funds set up political action committees and run millions of dollars against the one person they don't want to run against? They spent money against Hillary, not against her opponent. Why? Because she was the first person to go to Wall Street and said, you guys are going to wreck this economy if you don't quit fooling around with these home mortgages. And you guys can't do this, and you're not entitled to the tax breaks you're getting, and you've got to stop making these companies dance to the tune of making profits in a year and a day. We ought to let them alone to make whatever they're making, to provide whatever service they're making, to share their profits fairly with their employees and their communities, and judge them over their performance over a 3 to 5 year period, not in a year and a day. They are raising money, and they have spent millions of dollars to attack her, not her opponent. That is the inconvenient truth, to borrow Vice President Gore's great term. So, now, this is not your meeting, sir. This is not your meeting. We heard it. Stop. Thank you. So, and let me ask you something else. Who has Donald Trump attacked? These people know what they're doing. And what you got to decide is this. When Trump says he wants to make America great again, I'm a white Southerner. I know what that means. That's a code phrase. When he goes down to coal country and says, I'm going to make America great again, he means 2 things. He means I'm going to make the American economy work the way it did 50 years ago. And I'm going to move you up on the social totem pole. I've listened to this a long time. This is a strategy. First, they went after African Americans in the 80s. Said, oh, they're just taking your tax money and spending it on African Americans who don't want to work, which is never true. Then they went after the women's rights movement. Then they went after immigrants. Then they went after the LGBT community. And then they went back after immigrants. And Mr. Trump said he wanted to build a wall along the Mexican border, and there's been no net in-migration from Mexico since 2010. Making America great again says that we stop being great. I don't agree with that. But it also says, I'm going to make the economy and the society the way it used to be. So even if I don't grow this economy, I'll give your side a bigger piece of it, and I'll raise you up on a totem pole. Let me tell you something. America wasn't so great for half the American people 50 years ago. It wasn't so great for people of color. It wasn't so great for the LGBT community. It wasn't so great for a lot of our immigrants. Plus, it's like me saying, I'd like to be 25 again. I would, but it's not going to happen. So he's holding out a false hope. Hillary asked me to go down to coal country and look those people in the eye and said, you know, you may vote for Mr. Trump. And she sent me down here to tell you this. She doesn't care who you vote for. You should be mad because nobody's helped you create a new future. And if she gets elected, no matter who you vote for, she's coming back for you to give you a chance to rise with all the rest of us. That's what we ought to say. And we should be for it. We should go to Indian country. The Native American tribes who live on lands without casinos are the poorest Americans. But they are rich in their capacity to generate energy from the sun and the wind. They should be able to have free electricity on their tribal lands, to sell their extra power to California, which has to meet a 30% renewable energy standard, then to use the cash to diversify their economy. And if they had a